Okay, so hopefully I got all of the car noise fixed today. Welcome back to the weekly macro update special edition. I'm driving across the country. I just left Oklahoma City. Um, and hopefully I'm recording with my Bluetooth right now. And if not, well, you can laugh at me later. But you know what? Everything that I was saying in the video yesterday is important. And I wanted to show you that you got to start somewhere. Even if I didn't have the right equipment, the perfect equipment to record, super professional quality videos that Keith does. I'm just trying to get the information to you and communicate with you more, and show you that the way forward is, like Mark Twain said, the secret to getting ahead is getting started in all things in life. If you want to be a creator, if you want to record videos on YouTube or TikTok, if you want to be an investor, if you want to have an investment account or a 401k, if you want to learn how to build a trust, all those things I was talking about. If you want to be an analyst and learn how to chart, I know people are doing that in Quantum Wealth Society, and I have done some too. Um, and you got to start somewhere, right? So back to us being in Cold War II right now with China. I did a class last week about how Russia is actually losing this war against Ukraine now. And there has been a great deal more evidence of that in the last week. You can look it up yourself. One of my favorite reporters is Paul Warburg, as I shared last week. Ukraine has been striking the Russian version of Amazon called Wildberries. They've just been striking their Amazon warehouses. So if you have an Amazon warehouse in your city or near your city, I think most people do at this point. Imagine if a foreign country just started bombing these warehouses, what that would do to supply chains, and how those warehouses would burn, all the goods in them would burn. It would create in some cases, toxic fumes. And in all cases, even without the toxic fumes, it fills up the sky with black smoke. There's a lot of stuff inside of large Amazon warehouses. So these Wildberries warehouses, well, Russia is using them for logistics and military logistics. So Ukraine has decided that they are targets. And they have struck 4 that I know of in the last 72 hours. Then you've got and there you can go back and refer to the class that I taught about why Russia is actually losing this war now. Then you've got issues happening in the Gulf uh, between the U.S. and Iran. You've got a number of other skirmishes. There's basically like 13 open fronts right now that the U.S. is participating in, either directly or indirectly. Um, and I've shown you guys a list of that before, but I'll make sure I get that together and post that uh, in the next couple days. Same thing. I know I keep saying I'm going to get to the charts, but I will. It just I'm trying to balance, my life and uh, giving you guys a quality product and working really hard for Keith. You guys understand how that is, right? So thank you for giving me that grace. So here we are in Cold War II. So Iran is hurting, Russia's hurting, North Korea has sent some troops and gear to both Russia and Iran. Maybe not troops to Iran, but gear to Iran. Like I said, China is sending a lot of parts to Russia. Well, North Korea is sending a lot of parts to both Iran and Russia as well as some of the other assistance that they've given. So really, the economy of North Korea, even the black book economy, is not absolutely massive. The on the books economy, if you go look that up, is very, very, very small. And the only way that North Korea actually survives is through black market economy. They make very pure drugs in North Korea and sell it. They're definitely involved in importing drugs to countries all over the world, like 147 countries or more. Uh, but that's minuscule compared to the war machine that is the U.S. plus Europe and the rest of the Western powers and their allies. And now add the Saudi powers and the allied Gulf states with the West. Okay, you can see the landscape of the Middle East changing overnight because of that. You can be sure that Iran, China, and Russia are involved by some proxy in these other open war fronts across the world and in the war fronts that they publicize in front of our face all the time, right? But the reason why we don't declare, hey, this is World War III and all this stuff, well, there's lots of advantages to keeping it a Cold War for both sides. Okay? Not using nukes is the obvious one on top, but maintaining normal trade is very close to that and right beneath it. So if you come out and you say we declare war, then that usually means you don't trade at all. And even though we're in this proxy war, and even though we have major sanctions on some of these countries, we're still trading with a lot of them too, or a lot of other countries are still trading with them. They're not sanctioning them. So yes, not everything that America does is bad. Not everything that the current administration does is bad. And if you see it that way, then you're seeing it with color-blind goggles. And in this community and on this, in this video, in this class, we don't do politics. And that means you got to take off the colorblind goggles and you got to see things for what they are. Sometimes people do good, sometimes people do bad. And then there's the uniparty agenda that both parties, no matter who's in charge and what head is on what mouthpiece is on top, the U.S. military and the government is going to push this agenda, and they're going to wrap it up in different words, maybe depending on what color hat the figurehead is wearing, but they're still going to push for that. These are the things we have to be aware of as the people and be able to critically think, dissect, and extrapolate what they want, and then try to get in the way of it and make sure that our rights are protected. And yesterday I was saying, what's the point of a soldier's sacrifice if they come back home and they have no rights and their home is destroyed? So we always have to be careful and take care of ourselves as a people, take care of our communities, build our community. I showed you guys Retribalize. I finally got back on there. And please come check out the Rocky Top Dream Center. I am Ren Sewell on there. Or start your own project. Just use the site. Network with people. It's going to be people like-minded like you. And I'm not paying anything to use it right now. And it's simply just a social networking tool like social media, but for progressive communities and thinking and ideas and making the community better in general. I really hope you check it out and enjoy. So for the Rocky Top Dream Center, for me, I just want to empower people. That's why I teach these classes and I talk about the things that I do, because I want people to think about themselves and think about the world in a different way. Again, without any judgment goggles on, just taking the quote at face value comes from Kanye West. He says the biggest limitation that anyone faces in their life is their perception of themselves. And if they could only change their perception of themselves, then they could change anything they wanted to, change the world. And I really try to meditate on that. And I hope that you can start changing your perception of yourself. And I think that's why you're here, learning about the world and learning about finance and learning about trading and trying to get a handle on these things for yourself, for your family, for your future. So remember, the biggest limitation that we face in this life is our perception of ourselves. And try to elevate your perception of yourself in an honest way. That's one of the hardest things too. If you only work on elevating the perception of yourself, then you're a fool and you're standing on a bag of hot air, right? That's why they call you a windbag, and then it deflates and you have nothing. But if you want to build something real, you start by developing skills and knowledge, like you are here in the Quantum Wealth Society. So I'm already just proud of you for being here. Okay, so I'm looking at Cold War II. And I'm looking at all of the internal troubles that China's having right now. They're going through a massive economic downturn and deflationary event. But that also means that their goods will stay cheap, that their manufactured goods will stay cheap. If their currency stays low and their economy stays deflated, then the price to manufacture goods will rise at a slower rate. If your economy is extremely hot, then the value of commodities in your economy increases because they're being used to create and they're being sold. That's why it's hard for America to compete with certain economies in the world, like the Chinese manufacturing base. It's just a supply and demand issue. We're buying and selling everything over here. And one country, we figured out one country simply can't do it all. And I know that we're working on being the government especially wants to be supply chain independent from other countries, and we talk about pulling out of the globalist system and pulling out of NATO. I just don't know how the U.S. and China ever really decouple, because if they did, both of their economies would tank. It would be, and the world economy would tank. It would be a massive problem for everyone. And if they tried to reform a trade system separate from each other, the resulting economies that emerged would never be as strong, and it would not result in a net positive satisfaction increase. Both sides know this. They need each other, and the competition is actually healthy in some way. And we only ever hear about what sneaky China's doing and stuff, but we know we have our own sins to atone for as Americans, okay? And that's it. Again, let's not get political, let's get realistic. If China and the U.S. wanted to blow each other away, they would have. We have to walk this fine line and dance and play spy games and steal each other's intellectual property. But we know if one ever got the super advantage over the other, what would happen? That would be very, very bad for the world. But competition is important for the human spirit. That's why we have the Olympics every 2 years, the winter or the summer. It's every 4 years, but is the summer. But alternatively, every 2 years there's a different Olympics, right? We compete that much in all these different areas because that is a strength of the human spirit, a strength of competition. We have to remember that the strength of the human spirit only becomes a superpower when we can work together to achieve that goal. If everyone around you is competing in the fish tank, then Everyone carves out a tiny little space for themselves, but they don't build anything greater. Our ability to come together and work together is important, especially as Americans. That's under attack more and more and more every day because of the colorblind goggles. And that's why I'm saying take them off. Look at things realistically. Look at finances. And that's why I think the best thing you can do is diversify. Keith preaches this. Preach, preach, preach to the skies, Keith. Diversify. So that when one investment is down, another investment is up. Or if the whole thing crashes, at least you have a little bit of gold, some silver, and a goat. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? I've been talking about this for days. The world is changing whether you like it or not, and you need to adapt to it. If that means you're going to go completely off grid and prepare for war with the machines, okay, bro. Okay, sis. I 100% support you in that. Don't be mad at the messenger for telling you what's coming. I can't stop a multi-million, multi-billion dollar train. I can't do that. What I can do is analyze it fully so that you can make the choices you want about what's coming for yourself. The best choices for you and your family. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. You should consult your financial advisor before you make any choices in your life. And definitely do your own research about what's happening in the world around us. The people that are pushing the things and policies that you don't like I use Bill Gates as an example all the time. They worked very hard. He worked very hard to get his money and to get his position, and they are not going to relinquish the push for their ideas and the things that they want without a fight. And all of them have these things: a diversified portfolio, a strong support structure, a good family. And I'm sorry if you didn't come from a good family, build one. I'm talking to anybody who is ready to take responsibility and accountability for what's happening in the world around you. Build one. And if you see someone that you like building one, follow them. Stay with Keith. Stay with your favorite teacher here in Quantum Wealth. Seek out other people. Support them. Become a part of their team. And if you don't like it, build one yourself. Don't be a hater. Learn to cooperate. You know what? Allies in the world, countries in the world, compete against each other in the Olympics, winter and summer, all the time. But then they come together to work on policies and exchange in the EU, between the EU and the US, and all our allies around the world. You can compete in a healthy way and come out of it with good for humanity. There's another way besides war. And as far as the blueprint, if you wanted if you're a freedom fighter, if you're a social justice warrior, and you actually want change, the blueprint was given to us in the civil rights movement by Martin Luther King. The problem with all the movements and why they haven't been working is because they're not peaceful. Because people don't have time to get off work. So you're looking at a massive organization problem. You got to feed, clothe, house. You got to transport everybody. Let's say you wanted to have a massive, massive movement where everyone walked and went to D.C. like back in the day, civil rights movement. I'll tell you my theory. This is Ren Michael Sewell's theory. Okay. All it takes, critical mass, is literally 1% of the population 1% of the U.S. population gathering in person in D.C. to put massive, massive, massive pressure on Washington to get a bill passed, to get something vetoed, to get something changed. 3% of the current U.S. population, 3% inside the U.S. Capitol, and you could change anything you want. You could have a full revolution. And I'm not saying we should do this. I'm saying if you have the mind and the heart for this, okay, bro, okay, sis, more power to you. But you have a massive logistics issue ahead of you. You have a massive human cooperation issue in front of you. You've got to get people to take off their colorblind goggles, and you've got to start doing things peacefully. And you've got to start recognizing when they get inside the crowd and they start stirring it up, because we have seen cases when both Democrats and Republicans are in power, when there are riots, that the feds are involved in stirring up, going into crowds, getting people to become violent. From multiple three-letter agencies, FBI, CIA, both. So this is all proven. It's been talked about in front of Congress. They do this stuff. This is why movements and changes in the community don't work. This is why millionaires, billionaires decided we're just going to do it our way. Okay? Adapt and overcome. Adapt or be run over. Those are your choices. You want to diversify. You want to own digital assets. You want to own physical assets. You want to own stocks. You want to own bonds. And maybe not yourself, maybe a corporation. Maybe a trust. Maybe a corporation inside of a trust. If you know, you know. And if you don't, I recommend you look into it. Just a friend talking to you. I think everyone assumes that right now, looking at current conditions, that the U.S. is on top here in Cold War II, that they're going to roll on and that the Axis powers will collapse or capitulate, and we'll have an emerging, more peaceful world order. It'll be different. It'll be a shuffle of power and supply chains, but it should not end in kinetic war between the United States and China, or the United States and Russia. It shouldn't end in nukes. It should just end in a little bit of shuffling and maybe an economy collapse or two. Maybe Russia loses. Who knows? Okay, that's what it looks like from the outside. But I think if you do some digging into the fundamentals of both the Chinese and the U.S. economy, how they're linked, how they are absolutely, completely dependent on each other, there's no way. There's just no way. But this is a Cold War. This doesn't mean that one flag gets hoisted over the other, right? What happened in the first Cold War? Russia lost the first Cold War. Does that mean that the United States took over Russia? No, that's not what that means. It just means that the advantage, the edge, became so overwhelming, the technological, the cultural edge and influence became so overwhelming that it was obvious who won and who was sidelined. China definitely has a chance to come out on top in Cold War II. Okay, I actually think China has like a 30% chance right now. Better than you might think. And if the thing about analyzing macroeconomics is that if you connect it to your ego, if you connect it to yourself and you start taking it personally and you start worrying about it like you can control it, it'll make your head spin right off. You'll lose your mind. You'll lose your mood. You'll be rude to people that you care about. You'll make mistakes that you shouldn't make. No human being, no woman, no man was built or should bear the weight of that. So stop. Because I don't, and I analyze it all the time. But I'll tell you, there are moments when I have, and it's crushing, don't do it. And here's how you stop. Here's how you separate it from yourself. I've been teaching you the last 3 days. You understand and radically accept the things that you have no control over. You have to accept that because you are wasting time crying or giving up in the face of it.